Hi, grade 4. Today we're going to be talking about decimals and specifically tenths. So we're going to go over some vocabulary for decimals. So we have decimal, which is a number that uses a decimal point and place value to separate the whole from the part. So 4.8 is a decimal. And tenths. So they are sets of 10 equal parts of a whole. So 8 is our tenth in 4.8. So we have 4 wholes and 8 tenths. So we have 10 clouds at the top of our page, and there's 3 different colors. So let's first make a fraction for the number of white clouds. So what would our denominator be? Remember, the denominator is how many there are in total of all the colors. So it would be 10. And then how many are white? 2. So it would be 2 over 10 is our fraction for the white clouds. Now let's do our fraction for the black clouds. So how many clouds are there in total? 10. How many of them are black? 3. So 3 over 10. Now let's do our decimal for the gray clouds. So how many clouds are there total again? There's 10 of them, so that's our denominator. How many of them are gray? 5. So that is our numerator. Now we're going to make these into decimals. So because they're out of 10, we're showing the tenths. So for our first one, for the white clouds, 2 over 10, there are no whole parts. So that means there's going to be a 0 in front of the decimal. So it's going to be 0 decimal point. And then because it's 2 out of 10 and a tenth comes after the decimal point, it would be 2. So 0.2. Now what about for 3 over 10? So there's no holes again, which means that there is a 0 in front of the decimal point. And then what would come after the decimal point? A 3. Now for our 5 tenths, for our clouds, what would that equal to? So we know that there's no whole parts, so that means there'd be a 0 and then the decimal point. And then what number would go after the decimal point? A 5, 0.5. So now we're going to put it into our place value chart. So we have our tens column, our ones column, and then our decimal points there, and then our tenths column. So we're first going to start with the white cloud decimal. So we know that what is in this ones position. So we know there's no tens. In our ones column, there would be a 0, and then we have our decimal. And then in the tenths column, so that's how many parts out of 10 there are. That'd be our 2. Now what about for our black clouds? So there's no tens, we don't have to worry about that. There's a 0 in the ones position, and there would be a 3 in the tenths. So it would be 3 tenths would be what we would name that fraction, or that decimal, sorry. And then what about for our gray? There's no tens, we don't have to worry about that column. And then a 0 in the ones position and a 5 in our tenths. So it'd be 5 tenths. Now let's try it again. So we're going to have a picture this time. So we have a picture, there's 2 rectangles full of 10 squares in each of them, and we're going to be looking at the blue. So let's first make our fraction for this picture. So we have 1 whole, so we have a 1 in front of our fraction. Out of how many parts would there be? There's 10 parts because there's 10 squares in each rectangle. And then how many are colored blue in the second rectangle? So we've already dealt with the first one with our 1 in front of the fraction. So how many are blue? 5. So our fraction would be 1 and 5 tenths, or 1 and 5 over 10. So then our word name would be 1 and 5 tenths. That's how we write it out, 1 and 5 tenths. And our decimal, we're going to go into our place value chart first, and then we'll make our decimal out of there. So we know that there's no tens, and there's 1. Our 1 should be in the ones position because we have 1 of our fraction with 1 whole. And then out of 10 parts, we had 5. So our 5 would go in the tenths position. So that means our decimal would be 1 decimal point 5. So our decimal would be 1 and 5 tenths. All right, grade 4, that's all I have for you today. Bye.